Hi, I'm Jason Sterling. I'm a member of the EA Creator Network. Welcome back to From Start to Finish Part 2. Part 2, we've had Part 1 already. This is Part 2 from start to finish of the Crystal Bridge. Sometimes if you see me, you can see the name there in the corner. I've got it listed as Apex. I just kind of had a working name when I was first building it. But as I've been recording these videos, I've referenced the Crystal Bridge in Oklahoma City, which is part of what this was based on and influenced by, a couple of times. So I'm going to go ahead and just change it to that name. It really does kind of fit what we're dealing with. We'll get started right off the bat here. I start working on the landing platform. When I started, it was just a terrain platform, right? I ended up creating an actual physical structure, like an actual built structure instead of a natural landscape structure. I don't always like to use terrain tools in game because they can cause a lot of up and down, right? As you're moving across a lot, you bounce up and down to the different terrain heights. I don't really like that at all. So as you can see here, I'm erasing a lot of it, making it a lot more flat, so we won't have so much of that jumping up and down. I originally tried putting some of the flowered sort of fence railing up as well, which I love it. I actually love the way that looks. I did not ultimately love the way it looked here. I did end up taking it off there, although we end up using it other places coming up. Now, speaking of things I don't love, I ended up not loving. I started this. I wanted to put a waterfall in the back of this sort of, botanical garden here. Mostly because, again, the Crystal Bridge in Oklahoma City had this large waterfall at one time that came down. It's not there anymore. Most of the pictures I've put up of the botanical garden are older pictures. They redid it a few years ago. One of the corporations here in town helped redid it. And of course, they fucked it all up. It looks awful now. It really looks awful. And so the interior does. So they took that out. But I wanted to do it here myself. And I hated it. It looks awful too. So I guess I know how that corporation feels, because it looked awful too. And I knew when I started it was going to look awful. I never liked the way this looks. But I still convinced myself, oh, let's try it again. Let's try it one more time and see if maybe in this case we like the way it looks, right? I didn't like the way it looked. And you can see some of the stuff here. This is sped up a little bit, but yeah, I just don't like it. It doesn't look that real. There's some sort of waterfall things in debug. Also don't like those most of the time either. It doesn't look real. Now I do use a variation of that waterfall again coming up in a future video. So we'll take a look at it there. That I do like the way that turned out as part of the final structure. Here we're placing a little bit of, I think this is Bougainvillea. I think that's what it's called. That I'm kind of growing up the side of the wall. We really don't have a lot of plants to do this sort of effect with, so you'll see me use this a lot. Not just in these builds, but in other builds, but especially these builds where I'm using a lot of natural elements, and a lot of the build is outdoors. The other thing I use a lot is that bush I just placed there, the green bush, because it's the only bush we have really, well, maybe not the only, but about the only that looks kind of wild and unkept. It doesn't look like it's been sort of trimmed or like it's part of a more formal garden or a garden you're going to find in somebody's yard. It looks a little bit wilder, right? So I did go through and use that quite a bit. And so that's my thinking there. Why do I use it so often? Because we don't have very many choices. As far as that goes, that's it. Now, as you can see here, I started putting the stairwell into place. We're going to need some sort of stairs. Not really a well, they're exterior stairs. We're going to need some sort of stairs to access this botanical tube, because pretty quickly I'm going to start putting plants and stuff in, and I need to play test it to make sure once I have plants in place, can a sim actually walk down that pathway? Can they interact with the plants? Can they reach? I'm going to put a sort of T area in the very back by that large tree that you see there in the back, right? So I want a T area back there. So can they reach the T area? Can they use the T area? So I got to put stairs in to check that out. I'm also starting to work on rooms. If you saw the first video, my first concept here was to do sort of a village of small structures around this botanical tube. This is the start of that. I'm just kind of placing some different shapes. I don't really want to use a box, right? I don't really want to use a square box or a rectangular box. because this is a fantasy build. This is supposed to be for fairies, and they do things differently, right? They do things differently than a suburban box. They want something that looks a little bit different. So I'm just placing a few things there so I can kind of think, okay, how do I feel about it? I want to look at it for a while I'm working on other stuff. I want it to kind of really impact my eye, right? And think, okay, how does this look? How am I going to feel about this, looking at this in this position over and over and over? Am I going to like it? Does it fit? I don't know. We put in some planter boxes here because, again, we're going to plant real flowers in this botanical garden. We're going to plant real plants. Actually, we're going to plant the plants that we need for the apothecary skill. So we're going to plant real plants, so we need a place to plant those. We are going to use some sort of what looks like just landscaping plants back around the tea area, like a botanical garden would have, not really actual harvestables, but we want harvestables too. What you can see I'm doing here, I'm moving around the, what do you call it, staircases. The staircases, the front entrance. I really want to free up more space. I want to create a space between the landing platform and between the existing crystal bridge to grow that crystal bridge back on the other side of that rock face that is coming out of, right? So the crystal bridge is cantilevered from that rock, right? That rock standing there against the platform. Well, I want to have part of that bridge between the platform and that rock. So it's coming up. So I'm kind of already working on that, moving the pieces around, getting them into their new location. I can't just move the lot because what I'm wanting to do is take half the lot, split it, and move it to the edge. We can't do that with our existing tools. We have to just physically move everything. You can see there the tool, box, UI box popped up. I thought about trying to move stuff using tool because I could move it exactly along the grid. So it'd be exactly where it was before, just moved further spaces on the grid. But as you could see, the tool grid sometimes is not in line with the game grid. So it's one of the drawbacks of it. For whatever reason, Maxis does not always place its lots on its existing kind of grid structure. I don't know why. I don't know how they build stuff. I know that this isn't the only world that's happened in. Tool still has a lot of uses, beyond just that. And in the end, it was fine. I was able to work without it. It would have made things a little bit easier, but I was able to work without it. So I just shifted everything individually, because that's how much I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to see this sort of vision, this image that's coming up of a double-sided bridge on both sides of that sort of, I don't know what you call that, like a rock, that little mountain with the statue, the Batu statue on top of it on both sides, as though it intersects it, passes through it. Have that sort of feeling, right? So we're going to shift the size of this platform. We're almost there. As you can tell, the platform, we're going to shift it, and then we're going to have the space we need to fill up there. You can see where the terrain is, right? How high it is. We're going to flatten out that terrain. And then we'll be able to shift our tube backwards into that space. Now, to do that, to expand this tube, I end up copying a section of the roof, right? The bottom section. And I move it to the other side, and then I adjust the overhang of the roof, as we discussed in the first video, to fill that space. I position the base, the solid base, right? The solid base that the roof extends out from. I position that within the rock so that you can't see it. So in that way, we are able to disguise that section of the base. I discussed that actually in the very first video, that I really don't like those. We have to have a base for the roof, right? That's a sort of like little rectangular piece there that the roof overhangs stretch out from. I don't like the way it looks. I could have maybe have hidden both sides within the rock, but the roof wouldn't stretch out far enough to do the bridge to the size I wanted it to be, on the long side. It did work on the short side. So that short side, its base is hidden within that rock. I go through and, do the top and bottom both. Pretty self-explanatory here, extend it outward. I go through and put a second level platform on that new extension of this bridge. I thought about doing a second level platform for the other side, for the long side, because that actually is kind of in place in the Botanical Tube in Oklahoma City. But I thought it kind of was visually awkward. It just was visual noise on that side. This side we need it so that we can climb down from the landing platform into the space itself, because otherwise the space really can't be easily accessed, and not in a way that looked realistic. If I put a ladder or stairs underneath it, it would look really strange. I'm not sure they would actually have fit anyway, because there's not much space between the ground and the bottom of that tube on the back side of the wall, the short side of the wall. But I do want to access that area because that's where we're going to put our apothecary table. So that's kind of our hidden lab, right? That's kind of where fairies are going to engage in their sort of secret magical stuff. That's sort of the story. I go through and start putting in some lighting. These bars don't really put out a lot of light, just a little bit. They came with the high school pack. I guess it's supposed to be sort of a strip of neon, kind of. I love the way it looks. It has a very cool effect, and I feel like it is almost a little bit magical because there's no obvious sort of structure for the light. There's nothing that looks like a light fixture that's giving off the light, so it gives it a little bit more of that magical quality. On the outside, for whatever reason, I try a couple of different alternatives to that. I'm not real sure why I did that, but I did. I mean, as you can see here, I try a couple of different things by expanding the wall out, hooking them to the wall, shrinking the wall back in, and then you can see what it looks like. And I don't really like any of them. We kind of just speed through it here, including I thought at one point about doing a double band. I also didn't really like that. Was very short-lived, as you can see. I did not like that at all. I ended up taking that out as well. And long story short, I ended up settling on what I used on the interior for the exterior, which was those light strips, again, from the high school pack to put on the outside. Because there's no obvious sort of structure for the light to be coming from, so that gives us that magical feel. Why I didn't just do that from the start, I really don't know. I really don't know what I was thinking at the time, since I'd already used it on the interior and I knew that I liked it on the interior. Why do something different? I don't know. Probably just to test it out and just to see. I throw in a couple of the sort of, I don't know what these are called, braziers or something, braziers, something, I don't know. Fuck it. I don't know what you call these things. I call it like the fire pot because it's got fire coming out of it, right? So it's like a dish with fire coming out of it, but I do love the way it looks. I use it quite a bit, especially in builds like this. And so I put those there to light up the statue from Batu. And then I try a couple of different variations to maybe try to light up our archways, right? Our circular sort of design elements, we'll call it. I don't really we don't have a lot of options for that, for fire coming out of a lamp. I didn't like sort of what I used. I ended up falling back on the dragon torchères, which I love. I use those a lot. Absolutely love those. And then I try, as you can see here, a sort of trying to light up the arch itself. And what I was thinking was trying to light it up in the way that I lit up the bridge. We don't have a light fixture like what I used on the bridge in an arc or a circle. The lighting you saw that I tried there, I really did not like. As you can see, I tried it and quickly removed it. Ended up making that circle look like a Hollywood sort of lighting mirror, which maybe that's what that lighting's for. I don't know. But I did not like it. I also tried using the fire here with the dragons, and I have done that before. In this case, I really did not like it. Maybe part of it is because, I don't know, because of the height and the size of the torchères in this case, maybe. But I tried here on the first floor coming up, or on the ground level, I should say, on the ground level. I don't like it there either, right? Now, I do like these dragon torchères. They look great. Really look great with the style naturally. But yeah, I tried a couple of different things on the ground level with these dragon torchères to make it look like the dragon's kind of breathing fire or eating fire. Like I said, I've done it before, and I kind of liked the effect before, but in this case and in this place, I didn't. I don't like the effect really at all. So I ended up not doing it. Probably spent way too much time on it, which is a hallmark of my building style, I think, spending way too much time on things I'm going to end up hating. And then erasing it. And that really is a lot of my building style. Like try it, hate it, try it, hate it, you know. And I so rarely build the same things again and again and again, right? That building takes a long time for me. Because a lot of times I want to try something new. I want to try to do something different. That always takes a long time. You can see here, I even tried to disguise the base using these lanterns from the Moroccan pack, the courtyard kit. I love those too. I love the way they look. I did not like them here, so I ended up taking them out. I want to put some windows in for our entrance into Everdew. Again, you're coming down off that landing platform as I described in episode 1. Fairies arriving here in this community would land on the landing platform, come down the steps through our sort of like immigration circles, right? Magical immigration circles. Encounter these windows. For some reason, the one window there on the one side would not work. Why? I don't know. I really have no idea. Is it a terrain problem? I don't know. I have no idea why it would not work. I ended up sticking those archways there, and then it did make it look like a real window. And I actually like the way the archways look over it. It gives it a little more detail, as though it's a little more designed, a little more kind of carved. Done that same sort of thing with other builds, so it does within this community. So it does kind of tie this build to those builds. There is a gap at the bottom. I do end up resolving that coming up. We'll see how that works coming up. So please hit like, subscribe, and notify, because that will be in a future video. And we've come to the end of this video. We're going to see how I resolve that and all sorts of problems as we go along. But that one actually resolves pretty well. I actually end up liking the way I do that one pretty well. It ends up pretty good. And it doesn't matter that extra light is coming into the space or that maybe the lighting would be off, because this is an open air space anyway. Right. So we don't really need a solid feel there to that wall. So we're going to handle that next time. Again, please hit like, subscribe, and notify. And as always, thanks for watching.